Hi, I'm Stephen Schick. I'm the music director of the La Jolla Symphony and Chorus, and right now we're getting ready for our opening concert of the season called Angle of Repose. The season is based on Wallace Stegner's masterpiece Novel of the American West that was published in 1971 and won the Pulitzer Prize for Literature in 1972. In the novel, the protagonist, Lyman Ward, sets on a project of writing the biography of his grandmother, who was a woman born of privilege in the East, but transplanted and married for love to a man who took her to the West and worked there as a mining engineer for many, many years. In the novel, the characters interact back and forth between the mid-19th century and the mid-20th century, and you see this conflict of generations, which poses this question: how do we relate to our own past? How do we look at the place we came from that allows us both to understand where we've come from, where we are, but where we might be going? Now, one of the big questions for us in an orchestra and a chorus is, how do these thoughts that seem so at home on the page of a novel translate into musical ideas? Can you, in fact, take a novel and make a musical version of it in a single concert, much less our project, which is to take an entire series of concerts and base it on the novel of Wallace Stegner? So we thought we would take oppositional forces, things that seem to fight each other, both in the context of the novel and in the context of the music we want to present. Our opening concert, Hero Anti-Hero, works for two purposes. It kicks off our season in celebration of Wallace Stegner's magnificent novel, Angle of Repose, and it also celebrates the 100th birthday of the great American experimentalist composer John Cage. All over the world this year there are Cage celebrations, and he did, in fact, completely transform our ideas about music and music making, and it seems really appropriate that the La Jolla Symphony and Chorus should join the celebration. Cage in this concert is our anti-hero. He serves as a foil for Beethoven. And we've chosen two major works of John Cage to present. The first is a piece called 101, and 101 refers to the number of musicians playing the piece. So that means that it's for very large orchestra. And in this particular case, there are these amazing aspects to the piece. One is that we have 101 separate individual parts, as opposed to most orchestra music in which, for example, many violinists play exactly the same part. In this particular case, each of the 101 musicians on stage will play his or her separate part. The only person who doesn't have a part in the piece is me, the conductor. The podium will be empty, and the musicians will time their entrances by using stopwatches in a system of timing that Cage has put into their parts. His ultimate piece of randomness, or what Cage actually called indeterminacy, is the piece from 1952, Cage's most famous and likewise infamous piece, a work called 4:33. 4 minutes and 33 seconds, in which the performers do nothing. The music that is produced, the music heard by the audience, will be whatever sounds happen. So we'll open the doors to Mandeville Auditorium. We'll hear whatever sounds happen to be going on, whether that might be wind in the trees or an airplane passing overhead or maybe a car backfiring. We won't know. And for those 4 minutes and 33 seconds, that will become the music. Then immediately, and without a pause and without anything, we will start the Beethoven Third Symphony, the Eroica, the heroic statement of the concert. I'm so looking forward to the idea of hearing those two famous chords that start the Eroica, not out of applause and tuning, but out of the silence that Cage enforces. This will be a radical and a brusque rubbing up against one another of two very, very different points of view. And when things rub up against each other, they create heat and friction. But of course, the heroic impulse, which is such a basic part of the human emotional template, did not disappear with the turn of the 20th century. There are composers who still write dramatic, heroic music. And one of those is the very young New York composer, fantastically interesting woman by the name of Missy Mazzoli, whose piece Violent, Violent Sea, I think you can imagine what this piece might sound like from its title alone, fills in the thread of the heroic impulse as it is passed from the 19th century to the 20th century. Missy is an emerging composer of great renown and highly profiled, especially in the New York scene. And she writes colorful music, but music that is also infused with the ideas of independent rock and minimalist music. She studied with Louis Andriessen in Amsterdam and grew up in the shadow of Steve Reich and Philip Glass in New York City. This music, which has drive and rhythmic vigor, seems to me to provide the answer of what happened to the heroic impulse when we come to the 20th century.